Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond BMR. Of course, I'm your host, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Hello, and thank you to everybody for coming on in. We have our special, my first of two Halloween shows this week. I'm ever so excited. Well, I kind of did one last Saturday as well to kind of kick it off a little bit. So, yes, I'm very excited. Dr. Dennis Carroll joins us. I call, for this time of year, I tell you, I call it Dr. Carroll, the modern day Van Helsing. Yes, because we're getting into vampires, werewolves, goblins, and ghouls, everything related under the sun tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show. Thanks, thanks to everybody for coming on in and joining me tonight with the lovely Krista from the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Subscribe to Krista and Brandy at the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast found on YouTube. Dennis Carroll, Hunting in the Shadows. That's right. Subscribe to him. Thank you to Miranda Crew. This is a great start. Great start. Happy Halloween. Trick or treat. Smell my feet. Give me something good. A good story. I thought you were going to say something good to eat. Yeah, I know. Thank you to Miranda Crew for that. Great start. Thank you so much. Which reminds me, the Super Chat is open. A great way to help support what we all do around here. Thank you so much in advance. Donations not expected. Always appreciated. You mateys can become BMR pirates. Join the many, join the few, depending on your point of view. You get a picture of good old BMR next to your name in the chat room sporting a bandana. Thank you so much for that, you guys. Subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube if you're new. The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast if you're new. Dr. Dennis Carroll, of course, my guest tonight, Hunting in the Shadows, found on YouTube as well. All of Dennis's links are posted below. Also, Texas Front Porch. Monica Rollins, our Paranormal World. Donnie Show says stuff. And Paranormal Paul just had a great show. He finished up. Go check out Paranormal Paul and Donnie Show says stuff. Thank you so much for that, you guys. And really briefly, before we get rolling any further, I want to thank everybody for buying my books. A Bigfoot Michigan Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1, Book 2. Both found on Amazon. Just type Bigfoot Michigan Rob in your Amazon browser, and it'll pull up. If you bought it, thank you so much. Leave a review. Everything is analytics these days. It does help promote a book sales. Thank you for that. Much like YouTube, hit that like button and leave a comment. So with that being said, thanks to everybody. Love you. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this show tonight. Before I bring up Mr. Dennis, I'm bringing up my lovely Krista.
Hey.
Hi, Krista. How's it going?
Well, I was good until you just talked about all of the shows and you
except for Four Blinds and One Mystery at a Time.
That's right.
Four Blinds, One Mystery at a Time is something I have to embed in my brain.
You sure do.
I do everything from memory today now, Krista. So that's one thing I have to keep saying over and over again. It's funny, though. The shows you're not on with me, I always say it. So you're just going to have to watch the show. You're going to have to watch the show and find out, Krista.
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
I'm good, too. let me tell you what I did today.
What did you do today?
I haven't done this I can't even remember. It's been years. So I don't sleep. Thank you, Lolo. I don't sleep at all. And so I guess it got caught up on me today. I was at work. I decided to come home and finish working, I laid down on my bed. I thought, well, I'll just sleep, close my eyes for 5 minutes. Oh my God, that was at 1:00. I slept for 5 freaking hours.
Today,
a hard sleep. Yeah. And then on top of it, this is funny. I woke up and I thought it was tomorrow morning.
Oh boy. And he said, man, you missed the show. Most importantly.
Well, I was freaking out. I was like, girls, you're late for school. I even texted my friend, good morning. Like, yeah, I'm just,
Well, you've been a busy girl. You've been doing a lot of different things you got going on in your life, which is awesome. So, you're all busy and I get it. Today was a long, busy day for me. I was running around quite a bit today. Then I made my famous barbecue ribs, which came out perfectly. But
Where's
what, Krista? Huh? I did baby backs. And I got to tell you, oh my gosh, the wind. I used the gas grill. It was so windy that my barbecue kept going out, right?
Oh, shoot.
Get blown out the flame, and I got to keep this at 400 degrees. I got this down to a science. So I was trying to block the wind from getting in the grill because my grill's not enclosed. It's on my back deck. So I ended up rolling up my two big ass blue garbage pails that we have, and I blocked it. which did cut back the wind, and they did turn out.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the day was saved. The day was saved.
Good deal. Hey, can I say something real quick?
Krista, of course you can. You're the co-host.
Okay, real quick. Bigfoot Dwarf says, Krista, congrats on being on Flash of Beauty. Thank you. And I have Jill Remensnyder. We have her coming on. I don't think it's not this week, but I think it's next week. Next week or the week
Yeah,
after.
right. November 6th.
Then,
I just seen that.
Yeah, I put it on our calendar. Yeah, so she'll be on. And thank you, Bigfoot Dwarf. It was fun. They came down here and we filmed at Emmaus. It was a good time. They're great.
Yeah, that was a great time. You did a great job with her over there, and she's a great person, great channel.
Yes.
Oh, and you mentioned
great too.
Pardon me?
Her husband is great too.
Oh yeah, I mean they're all fantastic people.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Bigfoot Dwarf. This bandana that I'm sporting is courtesy of Mr. Bigfoot Dwarf. Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite bandanas. I only sport it during special occasions, and it's always a special occasion on Halloween. And when I have my buddy, my friend, modern day Van Helsing, I just gave him that nickname tonight, Mr. Dennis Carroll. Hi, Dennis.
Hey, Dennis.
Good evening. It's a dark and spooky night out there. I'm getting in the mood.
It's misty here, so it really is like a dark and spooky night. It does look creepy out there.
And I tell you what, it was windy today. It was windy down here too. That was. I walked out on the porch one time, and I've got some blinds that hang out there on the porch. And I mean, they were really dancing all over the place. So it was definitely changing weather type thing, I guess.
Absolutely.
I guess so. We might be getting remnants of that hurricane that ripped through Jamaica and the Caribbean earlier. I don't know if we got the remnants of the wind, but it was windy. Yes, it was so windy.
Yeah. It's just nasty and cold here. Tomorrow we got more rain coming. So.
We got rain coming. Tomorrow's going to be nice again. And then we got rain all the way until Halloween. I hope it don't rain for the kids for Halloween.
So we have sunny here. So we got to get through tomorrow.
Yeah, I like to call that Dracula weather, when it's dark and windy and it kind of, it definitely says it sets the mood for stories and definitely telling stories for that. And absolutely,
I think we're going to do that. Yeah, it is. It's creepy outside, and you got the full moon, you got the wind, you got the rain. And since you mentioned Dracula, you've talked about this before with on a couple shows. But you know what, Dennis? I know there's so many avenues we can cover because, first of all, everybody, Dennis Carroll's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all things creepy, cryptids, the paranormal. Dennis has done exorcisms. Dennis has done everything under the sun, and you've written like 10, 20 books. I don't know how many, Dennis, but you're an author. You help people in paranormal investigations get rid of things in their house. A demonologist. I mean, you're Dr. Dennis, you really are a jack of all trades. But you mentioned Dracula, and did you not? And I'm not talking about the energy vampires either. We all know what those are, but in the spirit of Halloween, we'll keep it a physical. You, Dennis, were telling me some time ago that you think that you came across a vampire when I think you were in South Carolina.
Actually, I have come across several vampires, definitely, and dealing with them in my career, you might call it. There's been some definite. Matter of fact, I'm going to be talking about one that I'm going to be telling about on my show this Friday night. Kind of a little special I'm going to be having for Halloween, and it's about a vampire attack. Actually, I was attacked by this vampire. And you might want to tune in for that one. It's going to be a good one, but. Sure. I've never really talked too much about this incident, but I've had several incidences with vampire spirits and people under the thrall of these kind of spirits and things. And the vampire is very real, and just like the werewolf that we've talked about so much, it is a definite supernatural being. And you, Krista, any of us could become vampires if we wanted to. We do not want to pay that price for it, though, okay? Because the price for that is definitely your humanity and your soul. But you can do that if you were so minded to do it. And, I've had a lot of people over my career come ask me these questions, especially young people. Say, how do I do this? How do I become this? Or how can I see? I said, I'm not going to have your blood on my hands. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to give you that information. If you find it out, you'll find it out without me. Because I'm not going to tell you that, but there are definitely ways to do it. Yes, I could become a vampire tomorrow if I wanted to.
Let me ask you a question real quick on that. Why would somebody want to become a vampire? Because that's not what.
Well, some people are attracted. Some people are, Krista, having a dark attraction to these things already. You know, we all, and Rob and I talked about this on other shows too. We all have a darkness in us. You know, we have a dark nature, a side to our nature, a beast in us. You know, under the right circumstances, if that animal gets loose, just like Jekyll and Hyde, you know, it can be a murderer. It can be a psychotic killer. Well, that's inside of all of us. And if that darkness ever overwhelms us, and we become that darkness, that's what happens. You give yourself over to this darkness, and you get to a point. I talked about this on other shows as well. You can go past a point of no return into that darkness. You ain't coming back. You will be the darkness. You don't want to be saved. You don't want that. You don't want to be saved from the darkness. You want to become that darkness. And that's what being a vampire. A lot of people are attracted to that lifestyle because some, you know, like a lot of the goth kids are deep into that. But there are other people who are very deadly serious about this stuff. Sure. That's why you have vampire cults. You have vampire cults in every large city. I'm sure there's one in where you live. They are out there, just like satanic cults, witchcraft cults, werewolf cults. The list goes on and on. These are, I call them the specialists of the occult. They specialize in these things. Yeah. But yes, you can become if you give yourself over to the darkness, you are willing to let these spirits inside of you. You too can become a vampire, definitely, very quickly. And it's not that hard to do, but it's got to be that surrendering to it. You have to surrender to that darkness. You got to sell your soul. Basically, that's what it is.
So when you say you could become one, are we talking now? We're not talking about the Bela Lugosi and all those movies biting you in the neck. We're talking about some sort of dark magic. Are we, or am I wrong? Are we talking about there's all sorts? Do you believe in the undead, or are we talking about like people that practice the dark from the dark book?
Well, Rob, you've got to separate the Hollywood from the vampire folklore. They're two different things, okay? The Dracula you see, and by the way, I interviewed Bram Stoker's nephew, a very great interview I did with him. Matter of fact, he lives about like 100 miles from me. I didn't know that. But he's a great guy, Dacre Stoker. And I interviewed him. We talked a lot about Dracula. Dracula is fascinating to me. It's one of my favorite books. I read it at least 2 or 3 times a year, and along with Frankenstein. They are classics, but they give us that. But Bram Stoker took a lot of that out of folklore, but Hollywood took the ball and ran the other way with it, okay? That's the way Hollywood does. But we got to remember the vampire that you see, there are different types, just like with different types of werewolves. We talked about that before. There are different types of vampires. There is the undead. There's the living dead. There's the people who want to become vampires. They are what we call human vampires. There are many different types of vampires. There are energy vampires. There are psychic vampires. The list goes on and on. These people are parasitic in nature. They're living off of somebody. The werewolf does not live off of you. He doesn't need you. He can kill you and eat you up and go on about his business and not worry about it. It's nothing to him. You don't matter to him. The vampire, on the other hand, needs us. It feeds off of us. And it's not going to go around biting you in the neck. Okay. It doesn't do things like that. It does. These people will cut you on the jugular vein or in certain other parts of the body I won't get into and feed on your blood. Yeah, they will do that. But it's not like, they've got the fangs and they're going to bite you with it. And of course, they do have fangs. I'm not going to say they don't, but that's not one way they do that. That's sort of Hollywood kind of explanation for some of it. But there are people, and I've interviewed people who became handlers for vampires. These people look after the vampires. They're the human counterparts. They They guard them. They give them victims. They hook them up with people.
Mhm.
There are whole cultures of darkness out there. I call it the kingdom of shadows. It is connected with this vampire stuff. It is very deep, dark, and very evil stuff, and very dangerous if you ever get into it. Because there have been a lot of people who have told me over the years, and I've interviewed a lot of them. They said, you know, when I got into this, I found out there was only one way out, and that was to die. Really die.
So a vampire, because, okay, I'm going by Hollywood and what they say, you know, people become a vampire and they live forever. So that's not necessarily true.
Well, they have unusually long lives. I'm not going to say they're absolutely 100% immortal. They can be if they're very smart. They could live thousands of years if they play their game right. And they got to be on top of, you got to be on top of the vampire game or you won't last long in it, you know. And that's why the cults form. That's why the vampire gangs, there's safety in numbers, you see. So they can watch each other's back. So the lone vampire will not survive as much as the one that's in the group or the cult, and they watch out for each other and they give each other victims. They're not just out walking down the road with a cape, you know, and they're going to jump you and you get a chance and take your blood. They don't work that way. That's not the smart way to do it. The smart way to do it is to get you in their group and feed off of you. You'll be their regular customer, you might say. And that was you get something from it, they get something from it. That's the way it works. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting for sure. You know, I know some people who, you know, they're part of a vampire culture and they don't drink the blood or anything. They go to New York, New Orleans. They have the big vampire ball down there every year. And they have the fangs that they wear and stuff, but it's more of a lifestyle for them. Yeah. You know,
actually, you know, the thing I was mentioning about earlier, actually becoming a vampire. Now, there's two ways about this you can look at it. You can say, "Oh, I'm enamored with the vampire lifestyle. I like the blood." They call it the being sanguine. You know, they like the blood. They want to take that. They get hooked on it. Sort of, it is something like that. Sort of like a narcotic to them in many ways. That you can still be human doing that, though. I mean, you can still you don't. But there's another thing. It's even darker than that. That's what I mentioned before. You embrace the vampire spirit. You can let these vampire demons inside of you, and then you become the host for them. They live off of you. They live in you. You are possessed by vampire spirits, and these vampire spirits, and I've run into them face to face. Okay, I know they exist. They are real. And I'll tell you a story in a moment about one that I encountered. But the interesting thing is, if you give yourself over to these and these spirits inhabit you, you will slowly be turned into a real vampire. You will lose your humanity. So they do this to you. Yeah.
So really quickly then, so if I was sitting around, let's say that I was obsessed with becoming a vampire. And of course, we're talking about not Hollywood. And that's something I wanted to live for 100 years. And I just wanted to go to the dark side. So obviously we're not getting bitten, you know, we're not becoming the undead. So if you go out and you practice this, then there's something from the dark side that picks up on that vibration then, and it will get into your soul. Is that what we're talking about here, kind of? Does that make sense, Dennis?
Absolutely. You give yourself over to that darkness, you become that darkness. You're no longer a being of light. You're no longer human like you and I are right now, okay? And these people, these are the real vampires, okay? And yes, they will live long, unnaturally long lives. And they will have the, what I always call, the illusional glamour. They can use that on you. Matter of fact, now Wednesday night on my show, I'm going to be doing a program. Here's another one for you to tune into. I'm going to be doing Witchcraft Wednesday tomorrow night. And I'm going to be talking about the 9 black gates of witchcraft that you can enter. There are 9 basic powers that the satanic witchcraft people use. And one of those powers is illusional glamour, to get you to see what they want you to see. If I were like to be a vampire, Krista, and approach you, and I wanted to make you my victim or whatever, I would make, you would think I was the sexiest thing that walked on this earth. I can make you believe that. You would want me. You would want to surrender to me. Okay. When I got through with you using that glamour on you,
Right.
this is where the power of the vampire lies, in his eyes, and in his magical power that he has. This dark evil power that's in him. This inherent demonic power can put that glamour on you, and I could get you to see anything you want. Anything I want you to see. I might look like, hell washed out. I might look like I'm deaf, walking on two legs, but I can make you think I look very good. I can be very attractive. That's the way they operate, and that's the way they get people in. And they have this power, among other powers that they seek, to deal with us in this world. They seek invisibility. They seek the ability to levitate and fly, the ability to shapeshift into things. Yes, they can turn into bats. They can turn into wolves. They can turn into any of these things they want. They got that power. This is power that they go out to obtain. And it also helps them survive. It is a survival technique that they use in our world, because they not only have to survive with us, but they've got to also survive against us, and on top of that, feed on us as well. We are nothing but cattle to them. That's all.
Yeah.
Basically.
So would you think that, okay, because you mentioned the demonic, so basically they're giving themselves to a demon who might be portraying themselves as like a vampire to get them to believe in all of that stuff, correct? Like, because that's, if I want to be a vampire, I'm giving my soul, but it would be to a demonic entity who is portraying like, yes, you can be a vampire and do that kind of thing. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, actually, let me put it to you this way. And when I was mentioning the Hollywood vampire, okay, let's say, Krista, if you were to die and come back as a vampire, okay, and I encounter you in a dark room one night, and you're not Krista, okay, you're really not Krista. Hollywood says you are. Oh, Krista's come back as a vampire, but not really. You're gone. But those demonic spirits are inhabiting your body. They can use your memories. They can use what you are. They can use the fact that you and I knew each other or whatever they can do with that, they will use it. But you're not really in that reanimated corpse.
Sure.
Not you. Something else is. And it's using that as a vehicle. Yeah. To do what it's going to do. Yeah. That's what the real, true undead vampire is.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Now, that's one way to become a vampire. But like I said, the other way is to give yourself over to that.
Right.
And become a vampire. You allow these spirits in you. Slowly you turn into that.
Yeah.
You turn into that. Finally, one day, Krista will not exist anymore in that body. The demons will have completely taken over what you once were.
It'll be the shell of her body, but it will not be Krista. It'll be something, a totally different entity.
Interesting. I find this stuff fascinating.
It is fascinating. And, let me ask you this, Dennis. I know you want to get into another story about your experience with a vampire, but do you think this can account for a lot of the nefarious activity that takes place today? It's not necessarily that Krista became a vampire or I did, or it's these people that have the attraction to the dark side, and they got these demonic forces or these unnatural spirits that are leading them down the path of destruction. Absolutely. They're the power in all of these things, my friends, is their absolute danger of them is they are so deceptive. They are incredibly intelligent and very highly deceptive. You will never, ever encounter anything as deceptive as these things are. And they can turn you completely around. I have had people come to me and said, I don't know what happened. I was not in my mind anymore. Or I was so confused. I was so mind fogged. I didn't know what I was doing. These are all signs of what these demonic manifestation type spirits can do to you. I had a thing where we did a show with these boys that were doing, I think it was called Ghost Asylum. I don't know if you remember that or not, but they called me in on one of their cases. They were doing a investigation in a mental hospital, and they had been very viciously attacked by evil spirits in this thing. And they wanted me to talk to them before they went back in. They were going back in again. And I said, look, I told them what to do and how to safeguard themselves and all that. Make a long story short, they went back in and did not do what I told them to do. They ended up getting it. One of them did.
But the rest of them, they got attacked. The one that got originally attacked, he came through with flying colors because he did what I told him to do. The other ones got attacked. And one of them, during the middle of the thing, said, I've got to walk. I got to leave. I got to get out of here. I can't even think straight anymore. I said, well, that's the way they do. And I have actually, during investigations, it's going to flip you out, Robin and Krista. I've actually had to take people outside and draw a saw circle around them, put them in that circle just to get them calm down, just a protected place so that they could, kind of resolve themselves with that. I never will forget I was doing an investigation with one guy, and he was a new guy, and he did not believe in any of this stuff. All this stuff's on TV and all that. He didn't believe it. And he challenged the demonic spirit that was there, and that thing hit him full blast, knocked him down. I mean, he was like emotionally drained from it. I had to take him outside all the way up this long driveway, and I had to pray for him up there.
Oh, wow.
And the moment I stopped praying for him, every dog in that neighborhood started howling.
Believe that.
When the spirits left him, everyone, just like some of a movie, it was weird. Every one of them started howling. And that I'll tell you the final part of this little story, the guy never did go in investigation again with me. He got out of that completely. He found out it was real, and he did not want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
I could see myself going with you somewhere, Dennis. I would like it. I would like that. You were referring back to a story you wanted to tell, and of course we kept going on about this. But what was it that you were going to bring up about? You had one or two experiences with an actual vampire. What was that all about? And how did you know it was a vampire?
Well, this first story I'll tell you right quick. It happened. It had some voodoo involved in it too, by the way. So a little voodoo. Yeah, voodoo and vampirism go together, folks, definitely. And what the whole story was, this Mama Loa had moved into the neighborhood of these people that lived outside my city, and another team had called me in. Another team of investigators had got in touch with me and said, Dr. Carroll, we heard about you. We know you know a lot about voodoo, and we have a voodoo case. We don't any of us know what this stuff is, and we want to call you in on it. I said, sure, I'll do whatever, I can to help you. And what had happened, this Mama Loa had moved in their neighborhood, and there was a man and a woman. They were a very good Christian couple, and they were very nice, and they didn't have any kids, and they had a dog grooming service. They had two houses there. They had a dog grooming service in one house. The other house they lived in. And this Mama Loa had moved into the voodoo Mama Loa moved in the neighborhood. And as soon as she got in the neighborhood, she walked over there to this one woman that was running the dog grooming business. And she said, here, honey, I'm going to give you some good luck liquid. You take it and put it in your house and you'll get money and all kinds of stuff, And the woman unfortunately took the vial, and threw it away, I think. I wish she hadn't done that, but I told her, it's okay, we'll deal with it, but you should have kept it. But what she did was she did not give her a good luck formula, okay? She put a vampire spirit on this woman. Because here's what the woman told me. She said, after this woman left, she said, I had a strange feeling, and I got rid of that liquid, and she said, every day since then, I've gotten weaker and weaker. She said, Dr. Carroll, I used to do 10 dogs a day, and now I barely do 1 or 2. That I went to the doctor, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not anemic. There's no problem. They can't figure out what's going on. Well, when I heard that, I said, light bulb moment. This woman has put a vampire spirit on you. That's what it is. It's sucking the life out of you. Right. And if we don't do something, you will die. It will eventually unalive you. Mm-hmm. So, I found in her house a mark on a wall, which was sort of a stylized 666. It was up in a closet. I began to find things around her house that disturbed me. I looked for a fetish. You put a voodoo curse on somebody, you ought to leave a fetish. And that's why I warn people, examine your house from time to time and look around real close. Make sure there's nothing in there that's not supposed to be there. Because that's the way they do things. Oh, I can tell you stories that will blow your mind. How this witchcraft can get into your life. And sometimes, and listen to this, even just dreaming about it is an open invitation to them. They can take that. There are astral witches that can astral project themselves into your dream and attack you and walk around your house and leave things in your house.
Wow.
They can do this. These dark witches are very adept at what they can do. So I knew what was going on with this. To make a long story short, I and another fellow, we started, spirits hide. You know this, Krista. You've done a lot of investigation. They either go up or down most of the time. They get away from you to hide, or they'll go up or down. They go up in the attic or the basement. Well, they didn't have an attic, but they had a basement. So I said, that's where I'm going first. So I go to the basement. I put before I can pull the holy water out and start the process, and the other guy's with me. Something rushes by us out of that basement, and I could feel it. He saw it. He said it was a shadow. I didn't see it, but I felt it rush by me. And it went by so fast, and it went through to the top of the stairs, and it was a loud boom. And when I heard that, I knew it was gone, because sometimes that's the way they leave. They'll make a big noise when they leave. Vampire spirits are very bad about that. They make a big ruckus when they leave. Whatever they'll do something, and you can always look for that. So I did finish what I had to do, and I went back and I anointed the man, the woman, did the whole thing. And the woman said, "What was that noise?" And I said, "It sounded like it was up here." She said, "Well, it sounded like it was in the basement." I said, "It wasn't us, I said, "That was your problem leaving town." And that thing left in a big, fast hurry, okay? And I like to see them do that, by the way. It wasn't putting up any fight. But anyway, I checked back with her later, and after that day, she started doing 10, 12 dogs a day. Everything come out good.
Yeah.
The Mama Loa moved out of the neighborhood. She left the neighborhood, and she talked about they went in the house, found all kinds of drawings on the paintings on the walls in the house and all this stuff. But she was defeated from whatever she was doing, and she had to leave town. They have to do that. If their power is defeated, they usually have to pack up and leave. That's just the way that works for them. They've lost their power base wherever they're at. A lot of these things are very elemental in the way they operate in these things. But anyway, that's her story. And it was a vampire spirit. And the last I heard, they were doing fine, great. Business was going good. No Mama Lois left in the neighborhood.
Great, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So it's basically, it sounds like you're cursed. You get cursed by this. And so obviously curses can be broke. So it doesn't matter if it's a vampire curse or just, a regular curse, correct?
Vampire spirits are just like any other demonic spirits in some ways, except they operate differently. They drain. They're constantly draining. Let me tell you this, and I mentioned this the other night. We were doing a show on this. Good spirits and bad spirits. Let me tell you something about they're operating on a different vibrational level here. The good spirits are usually operating on a higher vibrational level. The bad ones are on a lower vibrational level. If you're down, sick, worried about something, that's when these lower vibrational things can really attack you, okay? Because you're down on their level, okay? That's where they're at. But if you're up high and you're doing pretty good, you're up there with the good spirits, okay? Well, let me tell you this. The good spirits do not need to live off of you. They don't get your energy. They have their own energy. The negative spirits create negativity to draw off of that energy. That's just the way they work. And I have actually, you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you've had this. I've slapped a brand new pack of batteries in a thing and walk in a house and boom, they're drained.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when that happens, I said, okay, we probably got a bad spirit here in this house. We probably got a demonic spirit going on, because that's what they do. They will do that. They will drain it from you. If they can't get it from something else, they'll get it from you if possible. Because I've had a lot of people in the middle of the investigation say, well, that's it. I got to go. I can't stay here anymore. I got to leave. And afterwards, they'll tell me, I was starting to get drained. And I would tell my people, if this ever happens, I don't care if you start getting a headache, get out of here.
Out of there. Yep, absolutely.
Get out of here. You don't need to be here.
Yeah. You mentioned something that happened to me. I did a really, really bad private case in Salina, Kansas, and it was a true demonic entity. And, it was gone. We couldn't find it anywhere. And we went out to the back, and there was a shed out there, and it rushed myself and my friend Kathy. And so when you said that you were pushed, I know exactly how that feels. It's unknown something, that just pushes you back. It was
You never
scary.
know what you don't walk in, and that's one of the things as an investigator you got to do. That's why it's called investigation. You need to kind of punch it and see what's going on here, what you're dealing with, because once you find out what you're dealing with, then you know how to address it. If you know, and I've had some, I've had some bad cases with some people so-called psychics. They say, "Oh, this happened here, and I find out they did not. We don't need to go off. Be very careful who you're taking advice from in situations like that. Make sure they know what they're really talking about, because they can lead you completely. The main thing that you investigate, the main thing is you always investigate the history. History will tell you, give you the keys of what you want there in that place. But if the history is not available, then you're kind of walking blind, and you got to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times too, we go to like the abstract company and just go way back and just, find the different history and, as much as we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. But now that thing I was going to tell you about now, the girl that I met out in the cemetery.
Yes.
That was one of the freakiest things. That's one of the favorites everybody wants to hear again. But that was one of the freakiest things I ever had happened, and it just came out of nowhere. That's why I say, when it comes to the paranormal and the supernatural, the only one thing you can expect is the unexpected.
Yeah,
that's the way that works. But I was just minding my own business that day. I was out in the cemetery. Actually, cemeteries, speaking of history, they are like a history book. In many aspects, they tell about where battles were fought, and they tell a lot of stories that are out there. I like cemeteries; they're nice, quiet places. And most of the time, I tell people, it disappoints a lot of people when I tell us, you will not usually find ghosts in cemeteries. What you usually find there are demons. That's where they hang out. Okay, but anyway, I was looking around that day, looking for a certain tombstone. It was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Okay. And I'm sort of a history buff too, and I was looking for this. I knew we came from the state of South Carolina where I lived, and that's where I was looking for him. This was in a graveyard in Charleston. They're a big graveyard downtown, and I found it. I had found it, and I was looking at it, and it had a little rinky-dink marker on it. I thought, God, it could be something bigger than that. Guy signed the Declaration of Independence, But anyway, I found it, and I was looking at it, and I was walking around just looking, and all of a sudden I hear a voice behind me, and this woman speaks that, do you like cemeteries?
Yeah.
And I turned around, and she was standing, real pretty girl. She was a pretty girl. She was probably, I guess, kind of tall. She probably about 5'10", maybe. She had kind of long brown hair.
Yeah.
And she was very pretty, but very pale, kind of pale looking. And like I said right off the bat, I didn't feel anything funky, It was just.
What state was this again? Carolinas? South?
Yeah, South Carolina. Yeah, Charleston, South Carolina, yeah. And they call it the Holy City. I call it the Haunted City. It is a very holy place. Anyway, she just, she was, said that to me, and I was being friendly, and there was nobody, and I kind of looked around, and it was a fall day. And it was kind of cloudy. I remember that well. And it was like big trees out in the cemetery, but there was nobody else around. I was looking, there was nobody but her and me there. And she said, I just love graveyards. I live here, And I said, oh, really? I thought that was kind of strange, but yeah, I guess maybe if that's your hobby,
Right.
You like graveyards. And she said,
you thought it was strange, Dennis.
I know
thought it was, you thought it was strange, but you liked it. We'll be honest here.
Well, I think right now, Rob, I was beginning to pick up on something that wasn't right here.
Okay.
Right about then, I began to wonder about that because I noticed the way she was, her eyes were funny. And I'm not saying I was looking directly at her eyes because they were kind of been rude, but there was something off about that. I didn't think about it right then at the moment until later when I got to thinking about it. There was something about that. But anyway, she was dressed. That's what got me. She was dressed kind of funny. She was like partially modern and partially old-fashioned kind of dress. She had something like a modern dress on, but then she had like a jumper type thing on, like a codpiece type thing that women used to wear, like a vest. And I'm thinking that's kind of strange, But in that city, you got a lot of people that dress in costume. They do ghost tours and all kinds of stuff. So I didn't think, a whole lot at the time. So anyway, she stuck her hand out and I shook her hand. And this is when it gets weird. Because I have touched a lot of dead. I used to be a cop and I've touched a lot of dead people in my time, okay? And that's what this was like. Shaking hands with someone who was dead.
Yeah.
In other words, there was no warmth. I'm not going to say it was icy cold, but it was just unusually cold. More so than some people, who have a problem with circulation, maybe, This was beyond that. And that's what really got me going, that's just not right here, definitely. I'm shaking the hand, And I kind of pulled my hand back. And she said, I live here. I'm buried here.
She told you that she lives there. She's buried there.
Yeah, and I said, what do you mean you're buried here? She said, well, I'm a vampire. I said, oh, really? Yeah, And I'm thinking, well, she's in one of them, vampire cults or one of those societies or something. That's what I thought. And that's what I asked her. I said, oh, I mean, you're in one of these societies or something. Do they have one here in Charleston, I was going to talk to her. I was going to interview her about it a little bit. She said, no, I'm a real vampire. I'm 180-something years old. Something. She told me 183 years old, something like that.
Wow.
And she told me her name. And I can't remember her name, but it was kind of a hyphenated name like Lou Ann or Beth Ann or something like that. I think it was, if I remember, it's like Beth Ann something was her name. Wow. And she said, I'm 183 years old. I said, oh, really? Now it's getting interesting. I'm going,
it's like, what's
really?
You're
a vampire. And I said, what are you doing out in the daytime if you're a vampire? And she said, oh, well, that's not, we can walk in the daytime. We can be day walkers when we want to. We can walk in the daytime, but it's just cloudy day. We don't like bright sunlight. It takes our power from us. That's what she said, this thing. And I'm going, oh, really? That's interesting, And I'm thinking maybe I need to leave here now, This is a person in front of me is not all there, And and she said, I'm like, you don't believe me, do you, or something? And I said, well, I said, there's a lot of weird things in this world or something, And she said, yes, they are, and I'm one of them. And she said, I am real. I am a real deal. I am a real vampire. And she said, and she looked at me, she said, one day you will know.
That was a threat.
She said that to me. One day you will know. And I thought that's weird. So I kind of backed up a little bit, and I looked down, and I'm thinking, what's the best way out of here, And I look up, and she's gone. I mean, just gone. And I can see through that cemetery. There's nowhere for her to go.
Did you?
And I'm going, what the heck just happened here? Yeah, I'm going, what happened? Yeah. And I picked my jaw up and I started looking around for her. I said, she's hiding behind a tombstone somewhere. I look around, she is gone. And way over on the other far side, there's some people over there. But they're like outside they're on the sidewalk outside the cemetery. There's an wrought iron fence, and they're on the outside. But that's it. I'm alone in this graveyard, or am I? And I said, this is weird. That's a weird thing. I'm leaving. And I turn around, and something catches my eye. This is the cream on the cake here, okay? Something catches my eye, and I look up, and amongst these big, huge oak trees, one of the biggest bats I have ever seen in my life, flying off down through the trees. I mean, this bat. Biggest bat. I mean, bats where I come from are only about, the biggest one's maybe a foot long. This thing looks like an eagle-sized bat. I'm doing that. I'm sitting there saying, oh, nobody is ever going to believe this. But let me tell you the aftermath of what happened. For days after this, or nights after this, she appeared in my dreams.
Oh, gosh.
And she would show up, and it was not, a dream that had any sense to it. You know what I'm saying? It didn't have a lot she wasn't talking and doing stuff, but she would just walk through my dreams. So I'd be dreaming something, and she would be there.
So she had a connection with you.
I would recognize her,
She was like a part of you.
Well,
like a part
I
of you,
tell you what I
wasn't it?
got from that dream. The last time that I dreamed, I don't dream about her anymore. I don't think about that much. But the last time was years ago. I got a kind of a message from it, like that I will see her again one day.
Mm.
And I
Sounds
think
like
when I do, and this has been about 30 years ago, okay? And I think when I see her next time I see her, she will look the same, but I won't. She will. I got that feeling she will.
Yeah, I mean, I got to ask you really quickly before you move on here. I know Krista has a question for you too. When she told you that she was she was looking young. She looked relatively attractive, brown hair, 168 years old, and says she was a vampire. I'm trying to put in my head right now what I would think if someone said that to me. I guess it depends on the situation. And like you said, you were kind of like, where's this going type of thing. I mean, he had been thinking that, oh my God, what did I get myself involved with here?
Well, I went back later after this. I got this got on my mind for a long time. It really was a very disturbing thing, and I went back and looked around that cemetery, and I actually did find a grave with a name similar to hers that would have been about 180 something years old. Now whether that's really her or not, I cannot say for sure. I mean, but that was an interesting coincidence, if you're going to call it that. I don't believe in coincidences,
I don't know.
but yeah, but I believe when you do encounter, and I believe me, in my lifetime, I have encountered very many supernatural entities. They are real. They are out there. I have come face to face with the demonic, with demons of different kinds, with werewolves, with skinwalkers. The list goes on. These things are real, and that's what I'm going to put on the back of my next book. My next book is going to be called Paracryptidology: Hunting Monsters and Things of Nightmare. And on the back, I got a blurb I'm gonna put on there, and it says, "When you're a child, you believe that monsters are real. Then you grow up to find out they really are."
Yes, and Dennis, really briefly, when we grew up as little kids, we can all attest to this. When we have a nightmare or see something that we think is a monster, and what do our moms and dads always do? They tell us we're dreaming.
Yeah, monsters aren't real.
They're not real. And I must tell
Well,
you,
that's
Dennis,
why I mentioned that earlier. I mentioned that earlier about the astral projection. We call them dream witches or dark witches. They can attack you. I have been attacked in my dreams on several occasions. They can attack you in your dreams. They can do things. Let me put it this way: you are existing in a very strange equinoctial type of existence when you're in a dream state. You're between life and death in some aspects. You're closer to the veil that way than you are when you're waking. Okay. And I think they know that. And when they astral project themselves, I have talked to witches that say, yeah, I can walk through your house at night if I want to. Once they enter your dream, they break that spiritual law that you've got to invite them in. Once you let them in your dream, it's sort of an open invitation. They can come in then, Vampires aren't that way. Vampires have to be invited. Black-eyed kids have to be invited. Werewolves, so on, all of it have to be invited in. You have the authority there, okay? But when you're in that dream state, your authority is wide open. You're open, unfortunately. You're like a door open. And if they find that door open, what are they going to do? They're going to come in there.
Yeah.
So at any time, did you ever think with that lady that, I know she told you she was a vampire, but what made you realize that she's the true vampire and not a ghost?
I think she was a vampire. I think basically what I would call, I think she was a vampire spirit or a demonic vampire. That's from what I haven't read, encountered in my time.
Right.
Here's the thing about Krista, when they possess you, these demon spirits possess you, they become in a weird kind of way a shadow of you. Okay. I have actually, and I'm just going to freak you out. Listen to this. I have actually this is very rare though. Okay. I have run into demonic spirit. People who die demonically possessed are not allowed to go on to where they can go. They are prisoners of those demonic forces.
Mhm.
Those are the real ghosts, if you want to call them that may be out there walking around. They're not allowed to go on. They're still captured. They're still under the power of these demonic forces. Even death will not free you from this sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Understand.
And because they wanted this, though. See, just like you said, I said earlier about you wanting to become a vampire, you got to initiate this. You got to surrender to it, and then you become part of it. Okay?
Yeah.
And if you die demonically possessed, all bets are off.
Right.
Okay, that's the way that
You're
goes.
done.
hmm Now, these may be the real ghosts that history tells us about. They're not, Uncle Fred and Aunt Mary still hanging around doing the knitting, in the living room. They're not that. They're out under the auspices of demonic spirits doing things. But if you were to come to me possessed with a demonic spirit, and I fail to get that demonic spirit out of you, the longer it stays in you, the more of a shadow of you it becomes. Don't you understand? It's sort of not only is taking over your body, it takes over your whole soul and consciousness. It becomes you in a weird quasi sort of way. It becomes you.
And is
That's
that
not good.
No, it's
that's
not
not
good at all. And is that a reason behind we all read or have followed, like with exorcisms? There's certain people that you can excise a demon in 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. But in some dentists, they got such a hold on you that you can't excise that demon for sometimes I've heard up to 3 years.
Mhm.
Is that a part of what you're talking about here?
Oh yeah, I have actually attended exorcisms. That one of them that had went on 4 years.
Phew.
In time. You got to have the right teams for these kind of things too, and you cannot go. I'm not trying to get down on the Roman Catholic Church here,
Sure.
but their bureaucracy, it takes them a long time to move and go to the things they do. That's why I send people to evangelical type churches. They are more open to doing these things in the correct and very timely fine manner they need to be done in. But you got to have the right kind of team. You need to have a doctor, a medical doctor on, or you need to have a psychologist. You need to have need to have laymen. You need to have priests, preachers, or whatever. You need to have all these in place to do this the correct way. You need to have a team. 1 or 2 people is not going to do this. I talked to William Blatty years ago, the guy that wrote The Exorcist.
Right.
And it's not long before he died. And he told me something very interesting that always stuck with me. I wish I could have interviewed him. He was a fascinating guy. Anyway, he said that when I began to write the book, I was not a believer. Said I was on the fence about whether it was even a God, Said I was not a believer. When I finished that book, I believed.
Wow. Wow.
And that's what this will do to you when you encounter these things and see them for yourself. You will see that these forces, although they are fascinating, they're not to be played with.
No,
I
absolutely
have
not.
actually. I remember one time, and this is a long story, but I actually cornered a demonic spirit in a building, and you could see that thing, Krista, Rob. You could see it back in a corner back over there with the red eyes looking at me. And everybody was coming out. Let me see. Let me take a look at it. Everybody wanted to come see it. I said, "Look, I'm not doing a tour guide here. Let's get it out of here. We don't want to play with this thing," because I have actually seen exorcisms go wrong, go bad, and bad things happen with those exorcisms. Okay, I seen one time. I was with an exorcism, and there was one guy there who was not a believer, and he was not a believer. And bam, when that thing came out of that person, it went bam right into him and knocked him down flat on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I told him later about that when they got him to get it out of him, and he was over there. He said, I believe this, I didn't believe none of this. I believe it now.
Right.
I said, well, you believe it now, definitely, because you encountered it. But what this thing knew, you didn't believe. And that's why it hit you. It came after you next. Because you were open ground. You were open, yeah.
Well, if you're scared, you're not a believer in Jesus Christ and all these other things, that's when they can get you, take control of you. Just like what you said too about, we've all seen The Exorcist. Well, I finally saw it a couple years ago. I watched The Exorcist at 12 in the afternoon with all my blinds open, and it was a sunny day because I could never get through that movie because I know these things are based on true experiences. And as you were saying, even that one priest who was in there with Reagan, you know, the possessed little girl. Now I know it's a guy in real life, right?
Real life,
Kind
it
of,
is.
right. But the priest, Dennis, the priest who performed thousands of exorcisms, ended up getting thrown out the window or something like that and died. So you're talking about an exorcism gone bad with a holy man and a man that's done it before. So these things are one of the things that scare me the most. Does Dogman, werewolf scare me? Well, yeah, to an extent. I know they're real, but I believe in God. I believe in the devil. And therefore, that is something I don't want to play with. Because that, I think, for me personally, could be different for anybody else. That's what scares the bejesus out of me, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. You definitely have to keep your faith up. And as Dennis said, you know, if you're sick physically or mentally in any way, stay away from haunted locations and things like that, because you can become a victim. You know, you got to be mentally in your right brain and you got to be physically feeling fine. So
absolutely. If you're not on top of your game, you need to set this one out. That's what I tell them a lot of times, because they know that. They know where you're weakest at, and that's where they will hit you. Every time. Yeah, they are smart that way. Like I said, they are, I won't say, you know, completely deceptive in the way they do, but they're so intelligent in that respect. And you know, what you're dealing with is an intellect. Here's a weird thing to think about it. You're dealing with an intellect that may be millions of years old.
yeah.
They have found and heard, they know languages. I know there was one instance where I went to a place that they were doing an exorcism at, and the people at that place did not know me from Adam's house cat, okay? As I was saying, they didn't know me at all. And when I went there, the demon knew me. He called me by name.
Yeah.
And they've got a network, you know? Yeah.
Well, they play that game. They will tell you, just like when the mom didn't visit his dying mother, she passed away. Then the demon went ahead and spoke in her voice, Charlie, I blame you. You know, they put this guilt trip on you, right? But they get you at your lowest level. They get you at your weakness, because if you're a weak-minded individual, they take over. They control you.
That's exactly why, Rob. You do not want to have a conversation with one of them. You're not going to accomplish anything.
You're not going to
you know, yeah. They have preternatural knowledge, just like that. When you said, you know, knew about his mother and all that stuff, you know, and the thing about The Exorcist, and what's so interesting about it, one of my favorite movies, but for the fact that, you know, the head spinning around, the green pea soup and all that, that's Hollywood, okay? The real interesting thing about The Exorcist to me is that could be real. That is real. It's not made up. You know what I'm saying in that respect? Because I've seen it with my own eyes. I know it is real, and it does exist. Yeah. But you don't play around with it. That's just something you don't need to mess around with if you don't know what you're doing. Especially, that's why I'm not an exorcist. Right. I feel that is a calling that you are given. That is something that between you and your maker, you need to work out that you're going to do. Yep. You got to be an extraordinary person to do that. But the priest did it the wrong way in that movie. He called the demon into him and then he threw himself out the window. You don't do stuff like that. That's not the way. The demon won in the end. Okay.
Yeah.
But we have a rule. Number one rule: monster hunting. The hunter must never become the hunted.
That's right.
No, he shouldn't. And you know what? I think with that being said, nice segue into something I'd like to change gears now. We've done this.
I want to say something before you change gears too.
Go ahead, Krista. Get it in.
Okay, so
welcome,
a little bit of tidbit Exorcist, the real thing information. So, you know, that house is right here in St. Louis, and all that he was based is right here in St. Louis. And so, yes, a lot of it was movie. It was just the whole concept of the show, you know, of what it was. However, so the demon did get out of the kid, whose nickname is Roland Doe. And Roland Doe grew up to work for NASA and actually worked on the windows of the Challenger, that space shuttle that blew up years ago, back in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Is that coincidence?
Yeah. No.
And, you know, most all of that took place in a hospital room and not in a house.
Yes, it was at the Alexan Brothers Hospital here in St. Louis. And now today, that hospital is a low-income housing. And the 5th floor is where all this happened at. And it is off limits. The elevator don't even go.
But it all did start with the Ouija board.
Absolutely, it did. Yep.
started up in I believe it was Wisconsin. He was doing Ouija board with his grandma.
Do a Ouija board. Milton Bradley or Parker Brothers. But before I do want to change this. Thanks for coming on in. Yeah, thanks for coming on in, everybody. If you just got in, watch the replay. I mean, we talked about a lot of great things, a lot of vampire stuff, some of Dennis's experiences. But before we move on, Dennis, I want to do this before I forget. I normally don't forget. Cryptid, Castleberry Paranormal, Mark Z. Hammer, Miranda Crew, Sean Hertel, Cryptid Crossroads, Paranormal Paul, Strange Back County with MK. Oh, MK Ultra, eh? Thanks for your awesome super chats and donations. Not expected, you guys. Always appreciated. Thank you ever so much for that. Love you guys. Hit that like button. Leave a comment after the show. And subscribe if you're new. Dennis, the Halloween show. We could talk vampire. I could talk vampires 24/7 because that is my number one favorite monster or Halloween subject. But a close second.
Really quick. Boondock, just Dennis, is your email still the same? You're being asked a question. Just get that out real quick.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, and that's my website, DennisWCarroll.com. Yes.
Yeah, and Boondock. Also, if you go down to the bottom in this page, I have both of two. I've got two of Dennis's links to his channel and his website. Is there? His website has everything on it, and I have it posted here. So as I was saying, vampires, love vampires. I grew up on werewolves too, Dennis. Let me ask you, we know about Dogman. We talk about Dogman on all these shows, and yes, I believe Dogman exists. The werewolf's something else, man. Let me ask you straight up, werewolf, fact or fiction?
It is real. It is a demonic power, too, that you can acquire. You and I and Krista, we could also become werewolves if we wanted to, definitely. But like I said, there's that dark price to pay. And here's the bad thing about that. And, when Satan gives you certain things, he's not going to truly share his kingdom of shadows with you. Okay, he may give you something for a little while, but it will end up doing either one of two things. He'll either kick the legs out from under you, or he will have it consume you. Whatever you do will have that power to destroy you eventually. And that's what happens with the shapeshifter, whether they be a werewolf or they turn into a bear or whatever they want to turn into. The shapeshifter, once he shapeshifts into something, he can only do that so many times. It begins to get harder and harder to do it. He doesn't realize that what he has done is sold himself into demonic quicksand here, because the more he turns back into what it originally, the harder it gets, the less it gets time after time. Eventually, he will be stuck as a wolf or a bat or whatever it is he turned into. He's going to be stuck in that form forever. He has completely lost, his or her, have completely lost their humanity and their soul. They're swallowed up by the darkness. That's the way Satan and his kingdom of shadows works in this world. They will offer you everything: riches, power, glory, fame, love, the whole works. But they never really share that with you. It's just enough to get you to take that forbidden fruit. And then that's when they pull it away from you. He's not going to share his stuff or his power with you. He's going to give you a little taste of it. Just a little taste of it to pull you in and reel you in, but that's the way it works. And that's the way it is with a werewolf. It is a shapeshifting is a horrendous thing to do. I mean, it's a breaking of bones and tearing skin. This is not something you do, as a fun day in the park. Okay.
No, it's not. I had this debate just the other day, really briefly. We can continue. I believe if you shapeshifted physically into a werewolf, a dog man, I don't think you're coming back. You're not shifting back into a human unless you're a spiritual or metaphysical element. Does that make sense to you?
Well, Dog Man, of course, as I've said so many times before, he's a Dog Man 24/7.
Right.
He doesn't change. He doesn't. And that's why I think he cuts you a break and he'll walk off. Usually you'll walk away to tell the story. But you will not do so with the werewolf. The werewolf is a demonic power. He is a supernatural creature. He is a horrendous monster, a psychotic killer who will hunt you down. Once he gets your scent, he will not stop until he destroys you, tears you into little pieces, and eats you as the last insult. That's just the way it works. And that's why I tell people we do not have very many werewolf accounts on record because no one lives to give them.
Gotcha.
You don't. If you walk away from a werewolf encounter, somebody's literally looking out for you. You are incredibly lucky that you lived through it. There have been certain instances where that happened. I believe I actually saw a werewolf one time, but I think the only reason why I'm here to tell you that is he didn't see me.
Okay.
Wow. How do you know the difference between, you talk about Dogman too. How do they look differently, a werewolf as compared to a Dogman?
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of different attributes. I think a lot of times, and we really don't know, there's no data to back this what I'm about to say up, but I believe there's a lot of misidentification going on here. What you see sometimes you think of the dog man may not be there. It may be a werewolf. What I saw was not a dog man. I can tell you that for 100% because dog man does not wear pants and a shirt.
No.
As far as I know, okay? And that's what I saw, okay? And like I said, thank God didn't see me. But I was with two brothers. They were Cherokee trackers, and we were out. We had been tracking out that day, and I saw this thing earlier today, and I didn't tell them anything about it. I just kept it to myself, I said, well, that's a very interesting thing. And I saw it back in the shadow of the trees. I could not 100% say for certain, but that's what it did. Some people said, after that, oh, you saw a bear. Then no, that was not a bear. Bears do not have pointed ears. That was not a bear. That was something else. But I didn't say anything to it. And later on that day, we were out looking for the Wampus cat. That's where we were at in the Cherokee Mountains of North Carolina. And all day long, this thing had been playing with us. Okay. It was ahead of us, and we could hear it sometimes and all that. It was playing a cat and mouse game with us. And we could never get a clear track line on this thing. We could not see any track. Finally, we ended up next to a creek, and it was muddy, and we finally started getting a track line on this thing. And it was getting late in the day. It was thundering and lightning in the background. It was getting ready to storm and all this stuff. And one of the brothers was looking at the track, and I was looking at it too. And I said, "Oh, there's something weird about these tracks. This is not a cat, This is something else." That's what I'm looking at because I've studied tracks all my life, And I said, this looks like a big dog track, but there's something wrong with that too. It doesn't look right. And another thing is it looked like it went through here at the beginning on 4 legs, and the further down the track line it went, it was 2 legs. And that's when the Cherokee brother he's looking, and he looks up and says something to his brother in Cherokee. And I didn't know what he said. And I said, what did you say? And his brother said, we didn't sign on to track no damn werewolf. We're going home.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
You think the werewolf is a bloodline type thing? Curse from ancient bloodlines?
There are different ways to become a werewolf. You can have the curse of the werewolf. You can be cursed through a hereditary line. You can be cursed by black magic. Let's say if I were a warlock and I really hated your guts, Rob, I could turn you into a werewolf if I wanted to. Okay.
Oh, man.
That's the way. But I'd have to be a very powerful warlock to do that, and you would have to cooperate a little bit in that as well. But this is not something. This is something that's kind of rare. This is something that everybody's not walking around doing this everywhere. This can be done though. It is a possibility. Yeah. Have you ever? You might remember me mentioning the Hounds of God. Do you? Did I ever tell you about the Hounds of God? There's supposed to be an ultra secret sect of priests inside the Catholic Church who turn into werewolves and take care of the enemies of the church.
I know, man. I remembered that one. Jeez, no, I did not. My God.
But here's the question. Here's the question, my friend. Can you do evil? Can you do good with evil? No, I don't think so. That don't usually work out.
Wow.
Man.
So I have a question about the werewolf thing then. Okay. So we know like Dogman, if they get you, they eat you. So as a werewolf, is their thing the thrill of the hunt and to unalive you, or do they really eat you?
Well, let me say this. If I were to walk up on two crime scenes, I call it, and that's the way I approach these things.
Mhm.
All of my investigation, I was taught that way. You look at it as a crime scene, okay? If I were to walk up on these two different crime scenes, and there's somebody has been killed, torn up a little bit here, mangled, and then the other crime scene, they're just completely obliterated. They're just torn all to little pieces. I would tell you very quickly that first crime scene is probably a dog man. That would be the way he would attack.
Mhm.
The other one is definitely a werewolf. That's the way they do. There's so many different attributes to detective things. But I think, and having read some of Rob's books, and which are excellent books, by the way, I recommend them to anyone out there.
Thank you.
There are some stories in there that definitely have a dark connection to the darkness with Dogman. Okay, I believe he can also be conjured. You can call forth things from the darkness. If you know how to do it, there's no telling what you can bring into this world from some other dimension. Who knows what's out there? We don't know. We're just beginning to understand. That's why I call my book Hunting Monsters and Things of Nightmare. There are things even beyond monsters that are things of nightmare. We don't know what a lot of this stuff is. And what people have done by opening these doorways, like that Ouija board we talked about earlier, that's just a doorway.
Mhm.
If you open doorways to these spiritual places, these dimensions, and hell is another dimension, the bottomless pit is probably another dimension, the heaven is probably another dimension. These are dimensional, interdimensional things going on here. Right. And when you open, and I have actually seen with my own eyes, I have seen spiritual things materialize and manifest into the physical realm. I've seen that, Ramon. I have seen demons look like little children.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that. They can do that. And then when they manifest from the spiritual into your realm, like the werewolf does, he begins as a spiritual being of immense demonic power and becomes a physical thing.
Ah, see,
then
I was going to ask
you
you that. Yes.
You can kill him. You cannot allow.
Okay.
And what the best way to kill a werewolf, by the way, is not a silver bullet. It's a sword. Cut his head off. That's it. And then burn him and salt him. That's the way you do a vampire. That's the way you do anything that is a physical, quasi-physical, spiritual being. You got to decapitate it. That is why, by the way, the patron saint of vampire hunters is Saint Dennis. Saint Dennis got his head cut off, okay? And he picked his head up and kept preaching, walking down the road with under his head. So that's why he is the patron saint of vampire hunters.
Well, that's not foreshadowing your demise, is it, Dennis?
No, I hope not.
I hope not.
We'll get ahead that way, though, I guess.
Yeah, you're ahead of the game anyway. Hey, I thought that too. I was doing that for the longest time, Chris. It kind of makes sense. We're talking about the werewolf here, a demonic entity that takes on the physical being. To me, that for a lot of people out there, that might not make sense, but it does for me. What's your take on that, Chris? I like that.
A demonic entity that takes on. Well, here's my thing. I think that they can come in the form as what you want, including like somebody, I'm grieving for my grandma. Okay. They can come in that form. It doesn't have to be an animal. So they're sneaky and they get to you any way they can, any way they can break you down. They're going to.
Well, yeah.
And you want to see your grandma, I want to see my grandma so bad. They're going to come to me as my grandma. Of course, I'm going to open up and talk to her. Well,
that's Krista, that's the insidious way these things can work. See, they play these mind games with you. They can twist you. That's why, I was telling Rob earlier, you don't want to have a conversation with them. You just want to kick them out. You don't want to deal with them. You don't want to mess with them. They're very insidious, and they know what pushes your buttons. They know what scares you. They do. They know exactly what scares you. And I'm talking about deep down inside of you. These things are super, super, super sensitive. They may not can read your mind, but they can feel your thoughts.
Yep. Absolutely.
And they can pick up on it. Just like a dog. A dog can tell when you're angry with him by the simple change in your voice or the simple feeling that you don't even have to speak, and that dog will know you're upset with him. Mm-hmm. That's sensitive, very sensitive. I used to investigate with a dog, and I know that's why I took the dog with me for that purpose alone. These things are super, super hypersensitive. to these things. So be very careful what's in your mind. You know, I got attacked one time in a certain incident where this demonic entity was attacking me, and I was right next to it. This thing was like 8 foot tall, was just pulling darkness and shadows into it. It was getting bigger and bigger, and I could see the red eyes looking at me. And then weird, creepy, cold feelings started crawling up my leg, up to my chest. I felt like I was having a heart attack or something, you know? And I knew what this thing was doing, was attacking me physically.
Yeah.
And the guy sitting next to me was attacking him emotionally. It took him weeks to get over this attack. That's the way they work. But that thing was attacking me physically. And I just simply, and here's the weird thing, okay? I didn't speak a word. Usually you have to speak to these things, okay? But I did not speak a word. Honestly, all I said in my mind, greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world. And as soon as I said that, that thing started rolling off me and was gone.
Wow.
And I didn't even have to speak it, though. That's why every time you encounter one of these things, you learn something different, okay? I hope you do. You're supposed to take something good out of a bad situation, hopefully. But I learned something that day. It could feel my faith in action.
Yeah.
You didn't have to hear it.
Mm-hmm. You know, you spoke about the demonic, you know, playing on your fears. There's a house in Union, Missouri, which is right outside of St. Louis. And it's called The Screaming House. Actually, there was a book wrote on it, The Uninvited, by Stephen LaChance. And that house played on fears. You know, like one of the kids was scared of clowns, one was scared of spiders. Well, it would have those. And his fear was not being able to get to his children. And in the upstairs bedroom, this entity wouldn't let the kids out, and he couldn't open the door to get to them. And they're screaming for help. He's on the other side. So it's a true demonic house, and it plays on fear. So I totally get what you're talking about.
That's what an old exorcist told me once years ago. He said, you got to remember the darkness will use fear as a weapon against you. And that's where faith over fear comes in. Okay. Faith is the enemy of fear, but it wants to get you down, like we talked about earlier, to that, you know, lower vibrational area where they can really do their work on you. That's what they're doing. And that's why that, and he also told me this, you got to remember that a lot of what they're doing is theatrics. They're just trying to scare you. They're trying to get you negative, trying to get you upset. You don't fall for that trick and you're okay, you know, because that's one of the things that they use. They use that fear against you. They also can pick up on, like I said, if you're just not feeling good, if you're not, you know, you're feeling down, you're worried about something, whatever, they can pick up on that too. Your enemy is one of the most insidious enemies like that you will ever face.
Yep.
And you got to be very careful how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Or it'll deal with you. Yeah.
Right. Well, you know, and here's the thing too, like even people just doing ghost investigations, you know, they come to these haunted locations. And I always tell them, my thing is, and I was known for doing this, you know, well, touch me or what's my name and things like that. That's getting personal. You know, once I studied demonology and partook on a few bad cases, man, that was totally the wrong thing to do. And I always, you know, people will say that. I'm like, don't get personal. It's about them. You know, if you're running an EVP session, don't say, hey, my name is Krista and I got 4 kids and blah, 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 blah. You don't say that stuff. You don't get personal with them. And I feel like when people do that, you know, they're opening themselves.
Yeah, Lorraine Warren got pulled in a lot of times like that, you know. And, I met Lorraine one time. She was nice, but they were a little bit more into self-promotion than I would care for, but that's another story. Anyway, the whole thing about it is that they would talk to these things, knowing full well that I'm going to tell you this, and I don't know if you'll agree with me or not on this, and that's okay if you don't. But my own experiences led me to believe that 90% of what you encounter out there is demonic. 90% of it. That leaves 10%. I don't know. It could be some other things. But 90% of it is definitely demonic, and it's masquerading many times. It's something that will fool you or get you to believe something different that it wants you to believe, or play games with you or whatever it wants to do. And they're very much like cats. You ever seen a cat catch a mouse and what it does with that? That's what they will do with you.
They bring them to
me. They enjoy it.
They drop them on my chest when I'm sleeping. I mean, they did back in the day, yes. And they were all proud because they captured and killed the mouse. You make up this is a great great point, Dennis, because, many of us investigate and look for Bigfoot and Dogman. Some are ghost hunters, whatever phenomenon. And I think our intention is when we're going out in the field, I'm looking for evidence of Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever. It does not matter. So what you're talking about then is when you have some of these evil entities, they know in advance what your end game is. And so I'm thinking a lot of times, a lot of the things that we see in a forest, it might not be exactly what we think it is. It might not be a Bigfoot, but it might be something that's acting as one because they have a narrative that they want to instill on you. Does that make sense? And get you
It's
maybe.
very important, Rob, to realize that you know about Bigfoot and Dogman and other cryptids. The demonic also knows about that.
Right.
Let me give you a quick point and conjecture on that. Remember, Slender Man was made up online. Slender Man was just a thing, creepypasta made up to scare keep people, and all that. But now the demonic has taken that imagery, and it now is the demonic thing that it uses. Slender Man now exists in our world, and we made him up. But the demon took the ball and ran with it. They're looking for things like that, just like, said with Krista a few minutes ago. They know what scares you.
Mhm.
They know what, how to push your buttons. And if he were to appear as a Bigfoot to you, or as a dog man, or whatever else it wants to appear like, it will do that.
Mhm.
Simply to either fool you or get you to believe something, or take you further down in the woods and get you killed, or whatever it's up to. Okay, that's like these mimics you hear about people encountering, and I encountered one years ago out in the woods, out in the middle of nowhere, and they knew my name, by the way.
Mhm.
You don't follow it. Don't listen to it. Don't play it. We have a rule in the Appalachians. If you saw it, no, you didn't. If you saw it, you don't talk about it. The more you talk about it, the more you empower this thing, and it will
Yes, you
follow
give
you
it.
home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's almost like we can manifest these things. The more you talk about something, you do give it the energy, right? You give it that life, not blood, but you give it that source.
Right.
Power. You're giving it power.
And it feeds
Yeah.
off that
Yeah.
energy that you're putting out into the universe.
I had a guy contact me not long ago. He was out in the Appalachians looking around. I think he was Bigfooting. And he said, Dennis, something followed me home.
Mhm.
And he said, you got to come over here and take care of this. Something's going on here. And I said, well, I went to his house. He's a pretty straight up macho guy, but he was shaking like a leaf. And he said, something followed me home out of the woods. I don't know what it is. And I said, well, what makes you think that? There's some stuff going on in your house here or what? He said, it's not in the house, it's out in the yard. And he would walk over there to the window and he pulls the curtain back. He said, look out there. And there's two eyes looking back at us. They're glowing out there in the dark. Okay. And I'm looking at that. And I said, oh, that's not good at all.
Mhm.
And I said, you think you just, and he said, I said, there's nothing out there that could be. He said, there's nothing but woods out there, And he said, those two eyes, And I said, well, it could be something else. He said, well, it's been out there for 2 hours, And I said, well, it could be something else. I was trying to quiet him down a little bit. I said, let's do a prayer of protection and see what happens. Okay. And he said, okay, I will do that, So we got his Bible out and we did a prayer of protection. And matter of fact, I put that on Facebook the other day in case anybody else needs it. It's a pretty good one. It has to do with witchcraft or something. There's a lot of witchcraft in the Appalachians, okay? A lot of it. The witches in Appalachia have specialized in turning into big Black Panthers, by the way. I've been on trail of them a little bit. But anyway, we do the prayer. And as soon as I get up and I can feel something different, And I get up, I walk over and look out, the eyes are gone. I said, okay, I'll see you later.
I think I would too, Dennis. Really briefly. Oh, boy, excuse me. Really briefly, guys. Thanks to Sean. Thank you, Sean. Cryptid Crossroads. Thank you so much. Paranormal Paul. Strange MK Ultra. Hey, man, you threw me with a different name there. What else we got? Miranda. Hey, thanks, Miranda. Mark Z Hammer. Who else we got in here? Yeah, I think that covers it. Love you guys. Thanks for the support, the donations. Not expected, you guys, but I appreciate those. Thank you, everybody. Hit the like button. Dennis, has been a fantastic show. Once again, every Halloween you're here. Where can we find you, man? What you got going on? I know you've got your shows. You have like 2 or 3 shows a week. You got your books. All your links, Dennis, are at the bottom, the description of this page. But what you got going on, and where can we find you outside of the links?
Yeah, well, I have 2 shows I'm doing this week. Tomorrow night, I'll be doing the 9 Black Gates of Witchcraft, but it's Witchcraft Wednesday on Hunting the Shadows. That'll be at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Hunting the Shadows YouTube podcast channel. Okay. And Friday night, I'll be doing a Halloween special at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Hunting the Shadows. And that's where I'm going to tell about the actual vampire attack I had, face-to-face with a vampire. I'm going to talk about that. And so look forward to that for Halloween. And you can reach me at DennisWCarroll.com. That's my website. And you can also, if you need to contact me, you can contact me through that, but also at DennisWCarroll@gmail.com. My books are available on Barnes & Noble. And Amazon, just look up the author, Dennis W. Carroll. That's it.
Very cool.
Always a great show with you, Dennis. Thank you so much. My Thursday afternoon show, I'll be closing out my Halloween shows with Monica. We're doing witchcraft and spells, 1:00 Thursday. Krista, what you got going on Thursday?
Thursday, we have the 4 Blondes. And then Friday, or right after that show, is Blondes and Booze.
Yes.
Blondes and Booze, we have Paranormal 411. But if you are in the St. Louis area on, I guess it's Friday at 3:05 p.m., I'm on St. Louis Talk Radio from 3:05 to 3:45 talking about Bigfoot and werewolves, and not werewolves, dogmen and things like that. Cryptid. So if you're in the St. Louis area, tune in.
Yeah.
The Big St. Louis channel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome, Krista. Awesome. And yes, Krista's new show with Brandy, Mary Lynn, and Natalie is 4 Blondes, 1 Mystery at a Time.
Very good.
Thursday. Yeah. How about that? Then the Blondes are right after that. So they're back to back on that. And again, Dennis, man, this is always a great show when you come on, whether it's Halloween or any other time, because I know I have you every couple, 2-3 months. And it's always a pleasure. Every time you come on, I learn something. I always pick your brain. You know that. And it's always a pleasure, my friend. And what do you do for Halloween, Dennis? You passing out candy or what? You spooking the kids over there, or you lock the doors up?
Yeah, probably that. I'll be telling some stories. We're sitting out front with my friend, and we'll be giving some candy out there probably. And that's my. I love to tell stories. I'm a big storyteller, and I like to share that with the kids, especially. I used to do a lot of school presentations, go around different schools and do storytelling.
That would be a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, but I always enjoy that. It's a great time to do that. And to me, it's always a busy time of the year, definitely. But I enjoy it. Yeah,
it's always busy, and look forward to Dennis, because this, Dennis. We always do in Christmas time in December. We always come back and we talk about Krampus and all the other.
Yeah, Christmas is a big storytelling time of the year too.
Yeah.
So we'll have you back for that in December. You have a great Halloween. Hey, you have a good Thanksgiving. I'll probably talk to you, but not for a show. Thank you, Dennis. Thanks, Krista. Thanks to everybody that came, and hit that like button on your way out and subscribe if you're new to BMR and Krista. And I think Tex is going on in about 3 minutes, or he probably started. He does a night owl after this show on Tuesday. So thanks, everybody. I am BMR. For Dennis, for Krista, have a great night and have a great Halloween if I don't see you on Thursday. Good night.
See y'all.